How many times have you promised yourself that you want to start something? So whether you want to start going to gym, maybe you want to start a new program, read a book, learn a musical instrument. How many times have you had that promise to yourself? This is what I'm going to do coming into the actual new year. But then what you go and do is you actually talk yourself out of it. You see, this is the biggest problem that we actually have, is we have a great idea in our head, and then we create our own excuses as to why we shouldn't do it. Why do we do that? Well, that's the big unknown, because if we could eradicate that, just imagine what you could actually do in your life. You see, you could actually start to almost create this world that you want to live in and be in control in. But we always seem to talk ourselves out of it. Now, when I start looking at this, this is actually coming down to discipline. It's having the discipline not to do the activities, because once you get into the activity, that actually then becomes fairly straightforward. You just need to have a bit of motivation and drive and support with the people behind you. But what I'm going to go through is the discipline to start. That's the big area that I find for a lot of us. We have these great ideas, but we just don't have that discipline to take that very, very first step. And many times, that discipline, when we actually use that word discipline, when I reflect back when I was a kid and someone said the discipline word, it always felt like some form of punishment, to have the discipline to start. If you don't do it, X, Y, Z, it's going to happen. But it's not actually that. You see, discipline is more the control that you have. Discipline is actually, it's not about being perfect. It's about just doing things one step at a time. And in essence, you're going to start looking at what is actually good for you. When you start looking at starting something, and you can see it's going to be beneficial for you, it's to have that discipline to say, you know what, when I actually go ahead and do it, it's actually going to be good for my body. It's actually going to be good for my family. It's going to actually be good for my business. And accepting that, and then taking those little steps actually going forward. You see, discipline isn't control. This was an area where I actually, when I did a bit of research, I always thought discipline is some form of control in your life, and it's not. In fact, I want you to think about it as almost a self-respect in the actions that you're going to take. It's almost like, and this is really going to hug a tree, it's about self-love. It's about actually trading these, I want to call it the short-term comforts for long-term growth. Because that is what the discipline that I'm looking at. I want you to be able to have that idea and say, you know what, it's a little uncomfortable in the short term, but I know it's going to give me this huge benefit going into the long term. Now, the big question that comes out of it is, Stuart, that's great. That's a fantastic statement. I know that I want to do this and I feel crazy about not doing it. So how do I do it? That's the question that actually came out. So in a conversation with one of my clients, we were going through this particular process, and it seemed to be quite common. They would actually set out these fantastic ideas on how to grow themselves, where they'd like to see themselves in the future, but they never took that first step. They never went forward. And through this particular journey with them, I broke down these 5 little steps that I want to share with you. And these little steps you can actually start to put into your life. And they're very straightforward. They're not something that's complicated and requires a huge amount, wait for it, a huge amount of discipline to do it. In fact, it's something that you can do straight after this. So how do we build this life that is by design, that we're in control of, that in fact becomes this little term, disciplined life? So the very first thing, and this was an area where we're all guilty of it. We start something, but then we don't finish it. whatever the project may be, and you can go back and reflect. If you've got a tool shed, a garage, or anything like that, go and have a look at all of those unfinished projects, that puzzle that you started and it's not complete. You see, this is an area where if you actually go out and start something, but you never finish it, what actually happens is you create a habit, believe it or not. You start creating a habit of not completing things, which means you never get to the end result, which means that you never know what it's like to actually finish a particular project. And you don't have that little endorphins that come back with that excitement of, hey, look at this is amazing. So you're actually programming your mind to say, when I start something, well, there's no kind of end results. And that's the first area. When you start something, you need to finish it. You need to go the whole hog. You need to make sure that you get right to the end so that you can actually reflect on it and say, hey, I started this and I finished it. And you'll actually get that reflection of a sense of accomplishment. And the more you do that, the more your subconscious, your mind is actually going to start to say, hey, you know what? I'm excited for you to start this. Why? Because when you started, you finished it, and I know what the outcome actually happened, what actually happens. You see, you've got this brain that starts building a habit on your actions. And if your actions are always incomplete, it will start to create almost a barrier to say, why start? Why even go that next mile? Why even do this particular project? Because you're not going to finish it. So that's the very first tip. If you start something, I want you to finish it. It's so important to end it. Now, when we look at things to start, what can we start? Don't start big projects. Start small projects. And I actually joked with my clients and I said to them, you know what? Why not go and make a cake? And they looked at me with real strange eyes. And I said, well, it's a nice little project. You have all the ingredients, and if you want, you can cheat by getting the box mix, but go out, start, make it, start to finish, and then eat the actual cake. And actually what you're going to find is you'll enjoy it. The next time that you want to bake a cake, guess what? You're going to actually do it. You see, the thing is, start and finish, but start with something small in a particular project. So that's the first one that I wanted to share with you as we go through. The second one is really, it's one that, think of a journey. If you want to go from Johannesburg all the way down to Cape Town, you would make a plan. It is a long drive if you're going to do that in one day. And typically, most people like to stop over at certain destinations. So instead of just getting in your car, driving for 10, 12 hours, and then thinking, right, let's find a place that we can stay, but you don't seem to find something and you start getting a little bit of stress that's involved, what you should be doing is planning for it. You know that you've got a long drive ahead of you, so you plan it. But not only are you going to plan where you're going to stay, but you might even say, hey, it's a nice little town. We'll go there and we'll spend maybe a morning in this particular town. Maybe we'll spend an afternoon, and we'll actually have it as a journey. You see, the second is to plan ahead. When we plan ahead, it actually takes away a lot of the stress and anxiety that we have inside of us. We actually start to see the journey and get excited for that particular journey. When we actually plan ahead and we've got that excitement, guess what? The discipline to start becomes excitement, and you actually start to go forward. You actually start to see what could actually transpire in this particular journey to create these memories. And when you set yourself up this particular journey that is planned, it actually becomes memorable. And the great thing about it is it actually then supports the very first tip. When you start, make sure that you complete. When you plan something, you're actually planning to complete it. You're not planning to go halfway and say, oh, that was great, let me turn around and go back. No, you plan the whole journey from start to finish. So that's the second, is actually planning ahead, making sure that you have everything broken down into very simple ways so that you can remove the stress, you can remove any form of anxiety. And in fact, you know that when you get in that car to drive to Cape Town, In fact, you'll probably even get a WhatsApp, a message, or an email with a confirmation from wherever you're staying to say, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you later today. You see, these are the little things that really helps to support that discipline of actually starting. Now, the third one is one that you do have control over. It's about your environment. It's about what's around you. When you're actually thinking, I'm going to continue on that example of driving to Cape Town, that environment of success would start by making sure that the car is serviced. It would make sure that the car actually is full of fuel. It'll make sure that there are some maybe little snacks in the car. Maybe you even, showing some age, you've got the road trip CD, or like the new kids, they've got this whole little USB stick that they plug in, or it's a list on Spotify or something of that nature. But you've actually got this environment of success. Now, an environment of success is one that supports you when you're going forward. It's not one that you go in and 5-10 minutes in, something breaks down. Because it's that breakdown that really starts to create a negative experience and a level of almost fear to even start. So you create this success environment, this environment that you actually have a level of excitement to actually be in. And what you can also do is you can actually, if it's a home office environment that you're wanting to work and start something, remove any temptations that could draw you away from that particular task of whatever it might be. So for instance, if you're wanting to bake a cake, well, the temptation just to drive to the shop and buy one and come back and say, hey, look what I made. You can remove that temptation of saying, well, no, rather just buy the box mix as we're going forward. But your environment is so crucial to support you in your particular success. So make sure that you actually, we say design it, but make sure that that environment supports it so that you actually feel encouraged when you're actually wanting to go forward. Now, the fourth one, really, this works on this little word that called procrastination. Procrastination is probably one of the main reasons why people don't start. It's probably one of the main reasons why people don't finish. And that if we start to take that word procrastination and really start to break it down and understand exactly what are you procrastinating about, it's actually quite straightforward and simple. You see, for people to start procrastinating, what they really are doing, they are focusing on perfection. They want it absolutely perfect. So before they start to break everything down. They don't really like this. They want to change this. So they go again and again and again. If you want to go out and do a presentation to somebody, you go through that presentation over and over, and then you rewrite it over and over, but you never get out to do the presentation. You see, procrastination has this little element that you want to be perfect. And the truth of it is, perfection is actually overrated. It's something that should be put on the shelf and just left to one side. What you should be doing is actually saying, let me just go ahead and do it. Because I can tell you now, the outcome, with its flaws, with its errors, with its little obstacles, is actually going to be the best outcome that you'd ever desired, the best outcome that you'd ever expected. You see, we are human beings. We are going to slip up. We are going to make errors. We always want it to be 100% perfect. And the only way that you can get 100% perfect is to never do it, to never experience it. You need to go and actually call it, fail your way through. Go through it. If you make an error, hey, who cares? You know what? You're a human being. Everybody does it. And as you're going through, you're going to find it's getting better and better and better. I learned this from one of the clients that I coach. He's an actor. And he went into an audition and he was supposed to say a certain set of lines. And as he got up on stage, the nerves quickly kicked in and he made an error. He made a very small error in what he was saying. But the way it came out, the actual casting director said, the way you said it was better than what it was scripted. And that was making an error, but actually getting the outcome that he had actually desired. You see, it's not about that perfection. It's about just doing it. So that little fourth element of procrastination, I want you to remove it. I want you to just go out and stop doing it, because procrastinating is going to prevent you from actually growing and moving forward. And then the fifth one out of all of this, is one that really, as a coach, and I used to do this personally, whenever I did an activity, and I suggest this to all my clients, and I suggest this to you as well, whenever you start something, and it could be something small, and you finish it, the big element is to celebrate it. Whether it's a small celebration or a big celebration, make sure that you reward yourself with some form of celebration. The mind loves it. We love to get celebrations. We love to get rewards. It makes us feel good. It gives us those endorphins to want to do it again. I remember the days of going out to make calls. And nobody likes to make calls. We always feel uncomfortable. We always want to procrastinate to get the perfect script. But I used to go out and I used to set myself a goal of having 5 calls every single day. And I'm having conversational calls, not just phone. Oh, they didn't answer. That's a call. No, 5 conversational calls. And I would go through that. It would take me about 45 minutes to get that completed. 5 conversational calls with a very purposeful script of a certain direction. But here's what I used to do to reward myself. When I finished, I used to actually go outside to get the fresh air. And I know this is cheating, but I always used to celebrate by having a small piece of chocolate, because I love chocolates. And I did that every single time. Yes, it did not work for the body, but it gave me that motivation. Every single time I knew that once I'd made those 5 calls, I would reward myself. Now, what happened was, as I continued to do that, it became a habit. It got to a point where I did not have to take the chocolates. I could actually go out and do the actual calls. Why? Because the rewards were then having those appointments with the clients. Those appointments with the clients used to lead to the business that I actually desired. So the rewards were becoming bigger and bigger, but they started to stack on themselves. So it's such an important factor too. When you're completing something, reward yourself. It could even be as simple as going outside, taking a deep breath, listening to the birds, looking at the flowers, just looking at life around you and being grateful for what there is. Because sometimes that gives you that level of reward. And that starts to reprogram that subconscious mind so that you actually don't have that level of fear, you have a level of excitement. And when you're actually getting to the front line and you're saying, right, well, the starting line, and I want to start now, you don't have to create the discipline to start. You'll just start. And you'll find that you're not going to start looking at this and saying, I'm going to procrastinate, it's not perfect. Why? Because you've got the plan. You know what to expect. And more importantly, you know that when you get in that car and you drive from Johannesburg all the way down to Cape Town and you get out on the front, you can walk on the waterfront and you know that you've got that reservation at that restaurant that's got your favorite meal. And you know that that could be the reward that actually comes out, or the memory that you create with the family that you take when you're going down. You see, discipline, it shouldn't be a punishment to start. It is a true act of self-love. It's something that really, it works for you to create and help you to start moving forward. You see, every discipline that you actually take, it's actually almost, think about it, it's a small vote for yourself to actually become the person that you want to become. And if you're preventing yourself from taking those small actions, those small steps to actually start, you're actually starting to affect your future self. And that's what you're not wanting to do. You want to create the better version of yourself to ultimately start living that life by design. You see, perfection is way overrated. And you just need to go out there and just do it because you're in control of your winning future.